addictions and in the African American community. And today I asked, or last week I reached out to an old friend of mine. He's been around the business of entertainment for well over 20 years. You may recognize his name, but you definitely recognize his voice. He has a wealth of information and experience to share with us. So I would like to welcome to the table Mr. Freddie Red.
Yeah, where's my sound effect button there?
Right.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Is Dr. Youngblood, right?
Yes, sir. All but my dissertation, but thank you so very much.
Well,
Yes.
Thank you very much for inviting me here today, and I hope that I can be of help and understanding this subject, and maybe my experience can do something here today.
Absolutely. The conversation started, Freddie, about just the stigma in the African American community as it relates to drug abuse, alcohol abuse. We've talked about marijuana. We've talked about prescription medication. And tonight we want to talk about opioid use because I don't know if it's really well known, well talked about. I think there are people out there that use, but we don't talk about it. So let me just jump out with that question. What has your experience been out there, especially as it relates to entertainment and just the community at large?
Well, I think first of all, it's a shame that opioids in the Black community is not looked at as being a glamour drug, I'll say. And I think that's one of the reasons, we're kind of in denial about the problem. There is a problem. I think a lot of adults don't realize that our young kids are doing opioids, maybe not in the same way as what you see on TV, that other communities are, ingesting opioids. I had a particular incident recently with my teenage son, where I noticed one of his Facebook friends posting a picture of him with a cup with purple liquid in it, and he was kind of showing off the liquid. Well, I'm not too old to know that, okay, this is lean. And a lot of, people my age, they don't know anything about lean. But lean is a concoction of codeine cough syrup, Sprite, Skittles. There's lots of different things I think that the kids do, but this is a problem, at least from where I'm looking. That there is an opioid abuse problem above and beyond just the, if you want to say, normal use of heroin and pills like OxyContin. But it is going on in the Black community. But we, like I said, to get back to your original question, it's not a glamorous drug. So we don't talk about it much. We deny it. It's not like cocaine and marijuana, which has almost become legal everywhere. Not glamorous.
Yeah. When you say glamorous, what do you mean?
I mean, the high. You see, you can probably count on one hand the number of movies that you've seen where, opioid addiction is, the theme. It's normally cocaine, marijuana, LSD, drugs that, give people a quote unquote glamorous high.
Yeah.
Opioid addiction it's all ugly. Addiction, no matter what it is ugly. But I just think, you people look at opioid addiction as being the ugliest.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I see what you're saying. So out there in the entertainment industry, we don't see movies glamorizing opioid abuse, if you will. We don't see those backstories about that, but we do see it about marijuana use and cocaine use, where it's really promoted within that industry, which in itself could contribute to those using more.
But like I say, pay attention to the music. These young kids they're doing it. It's been, I mean, and this has gone on forever. I can take you back to the times of jazz. Jazz musicians were famous for smoking weed. Louis Armstrong had a nickname. They called him, I think, the Viper, because of the noise you make when you smoke marijuana. Music ushers in a lot of your drug culture, a lot of what's current, at least for our youth. And, as much as I hate the new music, and I know most people my age do, we hate it, but you better listen to it. You can get on Google now and type in the name of the song and put lyrics behind it. And it'll bring up a website or a site that has the lyrics to all the song. And you need to know. You need to know what your kids are saying, because I can't understand what they're saying.
Right.
When I hear it.
Right. So just being aware, as speaking to the parents out there that may watch this at a later date or who's on here now, we need to be aware of the music that they're listening to and the messages in the music that could be connected to opioid use. And that the lean just blew my mind. That the fact that you can see your child drinking something that looks like Kool-Aid, right, and is really something totally different. That's good. Can you tell me, just based off of your experience with being in the radio industry for the number of years that you were in and being involved in some of the highly promoted music venues that have been held here, past and current, would you say that there was any, just based on your observation, there was any opioid use within the audience? Do you know what I'm saying? Trying to say it in a nice, polite way, but did you see it used a lot?
No. And I can honestly say that there was one time in my 30-year career where I actually ran across opioid use. Like I say, the majority of situations that I saw, it was marijuana, cocaine, LSD. Opioid use was going on, just because I didn't see it though. And the one time that I did witness it was years ago. It was when I first got in radio. I was down south and I went to a concert. It was a blues concert, and a very, very famous blues musician and band. And I'm not going to say the name, but we go down there. My program director took me there. And we get backstage and we go into their dressing room, because he knew the people very well. He wanted to introduce me to them. We get inside the room and it's hot. It's one of these hot southern nights. And of course, as usual, I don't know why, but the air conditioner was broke at the venue. Just like church in the summertime on Sunday. I'm like,
they don't we talk about our church houses.
What's wrong with black folks and air conditioning? But anyway, so we get backstage and we go into the dressing room, and it's hot. My program director's hot, I'm hot, and we see everybody, and everybody's got something to drink in the room. And I kind of felt a bad vibe, but I didn't know what was going on until my program director reached down in a cooler, because he thought that's where some drinks were. And he was going to grab a drink from M. He reaches down, and as he's lifting up the lid, it was like everybody in the room at the same time went, "No!" But he opened it up. And I had never seen what they call, works in my life, other than probably in some movie scenes or something. But there was, spoons and just everything that you would use to shoot up heroin.
Yeah.
In this cooler. And after talking with my, he was really embarrassed that he did it, and I learned a valuable lesson. You don't mess with anybody's cooler.
Right. But you know what? I'm sorry, Freddie.
No, I'm just saying that was my only time in 30 years running across opioid use.
Wow. Something that you said that I don't know if our audience is familiar with, and that's the term works. Um, when we think about um, people who abuse drugs such as heroin, works will indicate everything a person needs
Mm-hmm.
to shoot up, which is the spoon, the syringe, the needles, all of that, the works, if you
Aluminum
will.
foil,
Aluminum.
candles. Yeah.
Yeah. So if there's a family member out here that happens to be watching this, like I said, now or even later, if you see a family member who has any of those things, that is definitely a red light moment. Pay attention to what your family members are doing. And also, I know we talk about heroin, but we also have to keep in mind that Vicodin and oxycodone is also
Right.
part of the heroin family. And we can, within our own community, inadvertently or purposely begin to use those very commonly prescribed medications. Um, um, I have had the experience of working with people who are addicted to just the Vicodin. They started out with, I had a back pain and they had Tylenol 3s, which is codeine, and then they end up using Vicodin just to manage pain. So, would you say, or have you ever had the experience of anyone close to you or not who became abusive with any kind of pain medication?
Yeah, and now that you mention it, like I said, it's I wasn't even thinking about that as being, an abuse of opiates.
Hmm.
I think, and that just goes to show that there is a kind of general understanding that when you start talking about opiates, that's heroin. They're
Hmm.
shooting up in an alley. But I mean, we talked about the lean. We're talking about the pills, Vicodin. Yeah, pills. When I think back, pills have always been, in our community. I had friends back, I'm talking back in the middle 70s,
Hmm.
the early 80s, that were doing speed was very popular back then.
Yep.
I remember hearing White Cross speed and spreckled eggs. And back then also I was kind of dancing between, two different communities, a
Hmm.
lot of because of my appearance. But
Uh-huh.
in other communities that I hung out in, they were into soapers and quaaludes and a lot of downers and things like that back then. But yes, I have, and I can say that I probably even had family members who have abused pain medication,
Hmm.
taking them too long. I
Hmm.
worked with a guy. I worked with a guy who had been prescribed oxycodone,
Hmm.
and this guy is not from the Black community,
Hmm.
and he was getting a prescription filled that he didn't use anymore, and he was selling them, and he was
Hmm.
making a lot of money off of these. I think it was OxyContin,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so yeah, I mean it's for me, and it's not just because of my association with the entertainment industry. I just think it's out there. I think anyone who says that they haven't been touched by it or they don't know or they're not paying attention. They're
Mm.
not paying
Yeah,
attention. And pills are an easy way for your suburban housewife to hide an addiction.
absolutely.
When you get down to people with less money, I think you have uh, cheaper consumptions of drugs and things, which are not as easy to hide.
Yeah, yeah. And that brings up a good point I want to just add in there. I think within our community, we're not educated all the way to what is considered an opioid. We do. The
Right.
most the first thought you hear or think of, I should say, is heroin, but
Hmm.
it is anything. It's fentanyl, as I said, it's Vicodin, it's morphine. Um, there was at a time, and it's escaping me right now, but they used to prescribe morphine. It used to be in I want to say aspirin. some form of aspirin a long time ago. Maybe that was
Is
cocaine.
is Valium? Is that, I guess that would be
Valium.
considered a, yeah. Now I remember.
Yeah.
Now there's the, see, like you say, the whole ignorance about opioids, because
Mhm.
when I was younger, I did not. I just, this is going to sound stupid, but you know, pills were in my mind. Pills were in their own class of drug.
Mhm.
You know, you had weed smokers, you had people who did LSD, you had cocaine heads, you had heroin addicts, and you had pill poppers. And that's
Yeah.
what we call them. You know, they're the
Uh-huh.
pill poppers. It
Uh-huh.
didn't matter, or nobody thought about what they're taking, or,
Mhm.
you know, what actual class of drug. But Valium, that was a huge abused drug back in the day. And probably, I don't know, do people still,
They do,
do
but you
people
know,
still prescribe Valium these days?
it's very rarely done. However, unfortunately or fortunate, however one chooses to look at this, there isn't a lot of research out there within our own community about opioid abuse. They are finding it that it is more prevalent in the white community, Caucasian community. However, we use it in a way where we would shoot up um, versus snort, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Right,
So
right,
there's
right. The
there's
way you
some,
consume it.
yeah, the way you consume it, and it causes a lot more harm um, to the body, depending on the route of administration. I'm saying all that to say that although this topic itself is not widely studied within the research community, it's still worth talking about, which is why, you know, we wanted to just kind of jump on here for a little bit of time and drop a little nugget or two for people who joined us to just begin the conversation to look at how we are using these drugs, which include Vicodin and heroin, or codeine and hydrocodone, and even Tylenol threes. So when we hear opioid, we're not immediately visualizing someone who is using a needle or snorting, but that it could be the urban housewife, it could be the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
it can be the nurse, it can be a firefighter. It's so many people who have even a back injury can begin to abuse these drugs. And I believe it's important that we have a conversation, no matter how it could be 5 people using it or 5,000, long as we are getting the word out that people are using these drugs, and um, it's worth the conversation. I'm sorry, were you
Absolutely.
about to say something?
No, no, no,
Okay,
no.
I'm going to pause for a second and see if there were any questions, thoughts from our audience out there. Given just a brief moment. Okay, I take it the silence means there aren't any questions or thoughts. Mr. Freddie, I do want to
Are
ask
everybody's asleep?
everybody, because it's getting
I've put
late.
everybody to sleep. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
No, you are absolutely fine. Again, I appreciate the fact that you were willing to join us. I do want to ask you another maybe final question, and it's as it relates to advice. What advice would you give those of us who may not be as experienced in terms of, I don't want to say this, we just raised in the church, and um we don't have the same exposure
Right.
to what's going on. What would you say?
I mean, I guess a couple of things I would say um, would be, number one, marijuana is a gateway drug.
Mm,
I know you hear about that, and people say, well, no, and that's been like one of the big arguments that have led to legalization. And I'm all for legalization, but
mhm,
I'm not so ignorant, or I'm not going to pretend to be ignorant to the fact that when you're around people who smoke marijuana, you're going to be exposed to other drugs, opiates, amphetamine, everything. That's within the culture. It's going to come eventually, uh, guaranteed. The other thing is, I think we as a community have to be careful about how much we condone not only the use, but the blatant open air outdoor market selling of drugs in our community. Why does that happen? Why does that go on in our communities and not in other communities? Why? I mean, I live here in Avondale, and I can go out right now and stand up on Vernon Rockdale and start selling drugs if I wanted to. I can't do that anywhere else in the city, and we can immediately point our finger at the police. Yeah, I agree. It should that shouldn't happen, and police should. But at the same time, well, what about the community? What about me? Now that I said that, now that those words have come out of my mouth, I'm trying to think. How much have I done to thwart that? Above and beyond just being a snitch, calling. Yeah, of course we can call and 911. I can be a Karen. I can be a black Karen and say, there's young boys selling dope up there on the corner. How many calls do they get like that a day?
Yeah.
So how much good is that doing? But we as a community, I think, we really have to look at, I hate to say it, but, and a lot of it is economical reasons, always has been. But our kids need to be exposed to more than just the streets. Kids need to have more to look up to as being a success than just a local dope dealer.
Okay. Yeah.
We can't. And those of us who do make it out need to come back and need to be seen, because the dope boy out there every day. The kids see him every day. They see his success. They see his money. They see his women. They see him living life. They see him rolling. They don't see you because you got out, and now you're living in the suburbs and you're driving your Mercedes in to work every day, and you might be passing by the hood. But that would be my advice. Stop. Pull over sometime. Come down with the Mercedes. Just pull up in the hood. You see an ice cream truck, pull over.
Yeah.
Start buying some ice cream cones for all the kids. Let them talk to you. Let them ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Because the dope boy talking to them, he telling them how they can flip $1.
That's good. So if as I'm sitting here, I'm just connecting the dots to our conversation, is that when we think about the stereotypes, the stigma as it relates to people seeking help and saying that they have a problem, well, people won't recognize there's a problem when the problem is systemic and everyone is doing the exact same thing. So I won't think it's a problem to go on the corner and sell drugs because other people are doing it. But if we can rid ourselves of that stigma and show a different way, then as a community we can grow, we can heal, we can do better. So I thank you for bringing that nugget to our conversation, and most importantly, I appreciate you for taking out your time during your evening and sharing some insights, some thoughts, and giving us some information that we didn't even know. I'm telling you, that whole lean thing, I'm like, oh, what? That's something new. I've been out here for a long time. I forgot all about that. So
and I had to confront my son about that too. I came at him with my phone with the picture of his friend, and I said, "What the F is this? Are you doing this?"
Yeah.
Hush. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I definitely. London, be quiet. I'm sorry about that. I definitely had to confront him because I was very concerned about that. And that's me being old school, birds of a feather flock together. I know this your boy, this your cat, And he, because see, my son know better. He know better than to have something like that. I'm probably blocked where I can't see it anyway.
Right.
But
Right. But what I like what you just said though, from a parent's perspective, don't ignore it. Confront it. Look at
immediately.
this. What is
I want
this
to know.
about?
I want to know. Talk to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah. Yep. That's another thing. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Keep the lines of communication open. And with that, we have spent our time communicating about opioid use today.
Thank you.
Mr. Freddie Red, yes. I appreciate you so much. Before we close, I just want to find out one final time. Do we have any questions, comments, or parting thoughts? Thank you, Pastor Valda. She said, this is great information. Oh, so now we get to see the
There's the
little
barking. I just wanted to see who was barking. That's my
Right,
London.
right. Thank you, Miss London. Is a boy or girl?
It's a girl.
Okay, thank you, Miss London, for letting us know. She said it's time for us to end.
Okay.
So with that being said, have a wonderful, glorious evening and be safe. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.